John Cena's heel turn was supposed to be the cataclysmic shift WWE had been building toward for 2 decades. It was more than a storyline. It was a historical reckoning, the culmination of years of fan resentment, corporate adulation, and a mythos built on synthetic heroism. For all the noise it generated, it lacked one thing: a worthy end. CM Punk, returning not just as a veteran, but as a purist hell-bent on burning the lies of this industry to ash, now stands as the inevitable force that will retire the version of Cena the world should have feared long ago. The corporate avatar stripped of the catchphrases and neon colors has become everything Punk prophesied in his infamous pipe bomb, and now it falls on him to deliver the final chapter, not for nostalgia, not for ratings, but for closure, because no one else can. The current iteration of John Cena is not the man who saluted the troops and kissed babies with a smile plastered across his face. He is a version of himself, weaponized, bitter, manipulative, and uncaged. When he returned and cost Cody Rhodes everything at Elimination Chamber, it wasn't about personal vendetta. It was ideological warfare. Cena didn't come back to fight injustice. He came back to destroy hope. He didn't align himself with chaos. He was the chaos. He embodied the hypocrisy Punk had long screamed about, that the system rewards the obedient even when they pretend to rebel. Cena wasn't rebelling. He was cashing in. For Cena, the 17th title wasn't about flair or legacy. It was a calculated attempt to rewrite his own story in the blood of the new generation. But that same ego is what will lead to his end, because he never accounted for the one man who doesn't care about legacy or forgiveness. He didn't account for Punk. The story writes itself not because it's convenient, but because it's destiny. Punk has always been the ghost haunting Cena's empire. Ever since 2011, Cena's image has been cracked by Punk's words, not by wins or losses, but by truths too raw for the PG era to digest. When Punk cut through the fabric of WWE's corporate storytelling, Cena was the face stitched to that fabric. Now, with the roles reversed, Cena as the tyrant and Punk as the anarchist messiah, the conclusion is inevitable. No title needs to be on the line. The stakes are far more personal. Punk doesn't need to beat Cena to prove he's better. He needs to end him to prove that Cena was always a lie, and the lie has finally run out of airtime. Every move Cena has made since turning heel reeks of finality. The way he mocks fans now isn't cheap heat, it's contempt. The smugness isn't just performance, it's disgust. He walks into arenas like he owns them, because in his mind, he built them. But ownership comes with responsibility, and Cena's refusal to take accountability for his years as the face of a broken machine makes him unworthy of redemption. He calls himself the last real star left, but it's Punk who reminds the world that stars don't beg for relevance, they forge it. Punk doesn't need mainstream approval. He doesn't need the company's blessing. He only needs a microphone, a pair of boots, and a cause. And there's no greater cause than purging WWE of its final fraud. This feud doesn't need a title. It needs a reckoning. It needs a ring, a camera, and 2 men who know they're each other's unfinished business. Cena has beaten legends, transcended eras, and flirted with retirement more times than Ric Flair has elbow-dropped a jacket. But he has never truly been confronted by the man who knows him best, the man who sees through every PR move, every comeback tour, every fake humility speech. Punk has studied Cena not just as a wrestler, but as a symbol, and now he plans to dismantle that symbol with brutal, poetic precision. Cena's strength has always been his resilience, his ability to outlast, out-hustle, out-merchandise anyone in his path. But you can't hustle your way out of the truth. You can't fake loyalty when your actions betray it, and you certainly can't earn respect by weaponizing it. Punk doesn't want Cena's spot. He wants the whole industry to look at Cena's fall and understand why it was necessary. Retiring heel John Cena isn't about a victory lap for Punk. It's about laying to rest a version of WWE that should have died years ago. A version built on revisionist history, where Cena is portrayed as a savior rather than a product. Punk's mission isn't fueled by hate. It's fueled by justice. The same man who walked out of the company because he was tired of being medically neglected and creatively suffocated is now walking back in, not for a paycheck, but for a purpose. Cena is the embodiment of everything that went unchallenged for too long. He's the last line of defense for a narrative that Punk exists to disrupt. And when that disruption finally happens, it won't come with fireworks. It will come with silence, because the most powerful thing Punk can do is strip Cena of the one thing he values more than cheers or boos: relevance. Cena's current run is like watching a former king rule over a crumbling kingdom. He believes this heel persona makes him dangerous, but in truth, it makes him vulnerable. His arrogance is not strength, it's camouflage. He believes his legacy is bulletproof, but Punk carries the receipts. Punk remembers every time Cena got the main event while better wrestlers were overlooked. He remembers the false humility, the locker room sermons, the backstage politics hidden behind a smile. And he's not here to forgive or forget. He's here to end the illusion. There will be no handshake, no hugs, no passing of the torch. Punk doesn't want Cena's torch. He wants to blow it out. When the match happens, whether it's SummerSlam, Survivor Series, or the grandest stage of them all. It won't be about counters and near falls. It will be about exorcism. It will be about a man dragging the sport back to reality by exposing its most celebrated figure as a fraud. Cena may hit an AA. He may even land his new finisher, the final word. But none of that will matter, because Punk's power doesn't come from moves. It comes from conviction. He wrestles like a man who has already died for his beliefs once and is willing to do it again. Cena wrestles like a man clinging to a throne built on sand. What makes this story even more profound is that Punk isn't the same man he was in 2011. He's grayer, he's angrier, but he's also more focused. He's not here to be the voice of the voiceless anymore. He's here to remind people that the voice never went silent. It was silenced. WWE thought it could bury him under nostalgia and network deals. They thought Cena's comeback would erase the sins of the past. But Punk knows that scars don't fade. They fester. And now they're bleeding onto every promo, every stare down, every swing of the kendo stick. Cena may have the machine behind him, but Punk has the truth. And in this business, truth is the one thing you can't buy. In many ways, Punk retiring Cena will feel like the last honest act in an industry full of manufactured moments. It will be violent, it will be personal, it will be messy, but it will be real. Cena's fans may never accept it. The company may try to spin it as a passing of the torch, but everyone who watches will know the truth. Punk didn't come to carry the torch. He came to burn the whole house down. Cena's defeat won't be just a 3 count. It will be a funeral, and Punk will give the eulogy. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. Heel Cena believes he is the final boss, that no one can touch him, that his return, repackaged and remorseless, is untouchable. But the greatest weakness of any final boss is underestimating the player who never cared about winning, only about finishing the game. Punk has nothing left to prove. He's already done what no one thought possible, forced the company to acknowledge him on his terms. But there's one more thing left on his list. Retiring Cena isn't about adding a line to his resume. It's about subtracting the last symbol of a lie. It's about restoring equilibrium to a business that forgot what authenticity looked like. And if there's one thing Punk knows how to do, it's remind people of the truth, even if it hurts. As Cena continues to spiral into a version of himself that is part Vince McMahon, part Hollywood villain, Punk remains grounded in something more dangerous: purpose. Cena talks about evolution, about control, about dominance. Punk talks about freedom, resistance, and redemption. It's not a feud, it's a revolution. Cena's promos are theatrical. Punk's are gospel. When they finally share a ring, there will be no need for spectacle. The spectacle is the tension. The moment will not be carried by pyrotechnics, but by decades of buried animosity. Cena may try to sell it as one last big match. Punk will sell it as a moral obligation. This match doesn't need hype. It breathes on its own. Every week Cena mocks the audience. Punk builds a movement. Every time Cena flaunts his power, Punk sharpens his blade. The contrast is violent, but the ending is poetic. Cena, for all his dominance, has never been invincible. Punk knows this. He's always known. And that's why when he finally ends him, it won't be shocking. It'll be inevitable. Cena has taken everything this business could offer. Punk just wants to take one thing: his last breath in a WWE ring. And he will. There's an art to knowing when to leave. Cena missed it. He came back when he should have stayed gone. Now he will be forced out, not by injury, not by age, but by truth. And the truth has a name. CM Punk is not coming to save the company. He's coming to purify it. And that process begins with the end of John Cena. Not the man, but the myth. Because once that myth is shattered, there's no coming back. No reruns, no nostalgia tours, just silence. And for Cena, silence is the one thing he never learned to fight. Cena's downfall won't come from a surprise attack or a moral awakening. It'll come from a man who's waited, watched, and bled for this moment. CM Punk doesn't operate in shock value. He works with intention. Every step he's taken since his return has been part of a precise psychological dismantling of everything John Cena has built. He doesn't need to scream to be heard anymore. His silence during Cena's promos is louder than any insult. His presence alone disturbs the carefully constructed balance Cena relies on. It's not tension between equals. It's a reckoning Cena can't delay anymore. When Punk finally moves, it won't be to wrestle. It'll be to finish what he started years ago. Exposing Cena not just to the fans, but to himself. Because the most devastating truths are the ones you already suspect. And deep down, even Cena knows he isn't untouchable. He's a man propped up by decades of branding, shielded by the company's refusal to let its greatest investment appear flawed. That same shield made him bulletproof to criticism, deaf to feedback, and impervious to change. But Punk has never needed approval to be effective. He's never relied on permission to speak or act. That's what makes him dangerous. Cena's entire heel character is built on controlled chaos. Punk is chaos, raw, unfiltered, and uncontrollable. And when the match comes, Cena won't be able to choreograph his way out of it. He won't be able to sell his legacy. He'll be forced to confront it. The most poetic part of this collision course is how avoidable it once was. Had Cena never returned, had he let the business move forward, forward, had he resisted the urge to control his narrative. But ego never lets go quietly. Cena needed to return to prove something, not to the fans, but to himself. He needed to rewrite history, to make himself the villain in his own mythology, as if that would grant him the authenticity he never had. But Punk sees through that facade. To him, Cena's heel turn isn't bold, it's desperate. It's an aging star clinging to relevance by pretending he's finally real. But real isn't about alignment, it's about accountability. Punk's not impressed by Cena's new snarl or darker gear. He's repulsed, because it's still cosplay, still a lie. And that's why it has to end in humiliation, not just defeat. No match stipulation can elevate this feud. No steel cage, no DQ taglines, no last man standing gimmicks. This isn't about spectacle anymore, it's about erasure. Cena used to be a symbol of hope. Now, he's a monument to denial. His career has become a walking contradiction. A man who once preached hustle, loyalty, and respect, now weaponizing manipulation, ego, and gaslighting. He's gaslit the locker room into fearing him again. He's gaslit the audience into believing his words still mean something.